You are listening to the 90 Days Later podcast with Anna Charles, episode 184. Welcome to the 90 Days Later podcast, where we talk about what really happens when you take a break from drinking. And it turns out to be the best thing you've ever done. I'm Anna, coach to high achievers who are done waking up with regret and ready to feel in control around alcohol. If you've ever wondered what your life could look like with less wine and more you're in the right place. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. Right, before I get into the meat and potatoes of what we're talking about today, a couple of quick announcements. So firstly, for any of you who've been listening for a while, you will know that the summer solstice, which is coming up, is one of my favorite times of year. And in order to mark it this year, I am giving a 12% off to it's now two lucky people who decide they want to go ahead and work with me and change a relationship with alcohol. And in order to qualify for this, you need to apply to work with me before Saturday the 14th. All right, so go ahead and book your free discovery call with me. And should you wish to go ahead, I will be applying that discount. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is later in the month, on the 24th of June until the 27th, I'm going to be dropping a free video training on the wonderful topic of 10 summer drinking mistakes and how to avoid them. Right? I am on a mission this year. I want to help people to drink 50% less this summer, right? Without giving up garden drinks, avoiding those all-inclusive resorts, or starting from scratch in September. I meet so many people who say, I want to do this, Anna, but I'm going to hold off until after the summer, right? And I want to have a challenge here that we can get started right now so that we're in the groove in the swing of things when September comes along. So I'm going to be having a free training there, free video training. I will drop the link in the show notes. And you're going to want to go for that, because not only am I going to give you heaps and heaps of value, right? You're going to come away with these mistakes that I see on the regular and how to avoid them, but I'm going to be making an offer that you're going to want to grab hold of, an early bird offer you're not going to want to miss. Okay, so there we go. So advertisements over. Today we're talking about something that probably we all face. Certainly all of my clients to some degree or another face this. We're talking about the effort point. Yes, this is a clean podcast. I have to say, is it clean or not clean? This is clean. So we talk about the effort point. And we all know what that means. It is the moment when something doesn't go to plan. Maybe you drank when you said you wouldn't. Maybe you didn't even plan and now you feel disappointed in yourself because you know that if you had planned, you would have come out better. And when we have any of these scenarios, what tends to happen, how I see this, is that it's kind of like your brain just throws its hands in the air, if a brain were to have hands, and says, F it. I'll start again tomorrow, or maybe you'll start again on Monday, or next month, or when it's sober October or September. See where I'm going? Or maybe never. I see that too. But here's the thing. That moment, that effort moment, that is not failure. Hear me on this. It is not the end. It is a sign. It's actually a sign. And in this episode, I want to show you what this sign is really pointing to. Because while it is a point in time, the effort point actually has quite a build-up. It's kind of like the main artist on the stage and there's 2 or 3 support acts beforehand, right? That effort moment doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It is the result of things like pressure, expectation, disappointment, perfectionism. Often it follows a thought like, I should have done better. Why do I always mess this up? I thought I was past this. Or it could even be, I've already effed up, right? That's it. F it. I'm really going hell for leather on this. And you see, your brain, in its very human way, it just kind of wants to give up dramatically, right? That's hence the arms in the air. But here's what I want you to hear. That moment is not proof you failed. It is the proof that something wasn't working. This is helpful. This is good, right? We want to know when something isn't working, because then we can stop doing that thing and we can find or pick something else to do instead. Right? It's the time to get curious. It is not the time to stand there and shame yourself. Maybe you were asking too much of yourself. I see this all the time, by the way, right? People who, I see this particularly on message boards, because this would be something that I would coach against when someone comes to work with me. But maybe you haven't had any alcohol-free days in the last 10 years, and all of a sudden you want to plan 6 in your first week. Right? You might do it for a week, 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, right? That's kind of asking for trouble. Maybe you were feeling, something big. You were feeling some big emotion and you didn't give yourself space to feel it. When we don't give ourselves space to feel our emotions, we say they're too big for us and we numb them, right? It's like, I want to turn the volume down on this emotion. Maybe you made the mistake where when something didn't go right, you meant it's something about who you are as a person. No. This is about skills, right? We're learning. But whatever it was, the effort point is not the time, like I say, to stand and blame yourself and whip yourself. It's the time to get curious. Let me put it this way. I'm going to use an analogy, and it's my favorite: driving. Yes, if you've been following along, I have all the driving stories. Let's say you're driving and you accidentally head down a one-way street, right? Maybe you say, F it, here I am starting to drive down a one-way street, right? Now think about your options, what you do then. What you do not do is park the car and then just stay there. Kind of like, I don't know what to do. I'm stuck here. I'm in this one-way street going the wrong way, right? Overload, I'm just going to stop. And you don't do that. You don't then leave the car there and say, right, that's it, I can't drive anymore. I'm never driving again. What would you do? You would reverse. You'd turn around. You'd course correct. You'd figure out a new way to get to where you want to go. Right? Now, sometimes, yes, you might actually, if it's close, you might actually go home and start again. Not in defeat, but because you just want to start again fresh from a place you know. I'm familiar with the roads around my home. I'm going to go back there and then start again, especially if you're trying to find, a hard to find address. But then when you start out, you don't then take that same street again. Even if your GPS says go down this one-way street the one way, you're not going to do it, because you've learned. Right? You know where taking that street leads. It is the same with this journey on drinking less wine. You do not need to sit in the discomfort and spiral, like you might sit in the car and spiral. We do not need to do this. We just need to learn and reroute ourselves. And you might have to reroute yourself 50 times, 60 times, right? But I wanted you to think, if you were willing to reroute and get up and try something and get up and try something and follow through and try something and follow through and try something, you would get to your goal, right? Because we only really quit, give up, fail when we just stop taking action. So that's the first thing I will say. Next, I want you to get curious. If you say F it, what does the it even mean? This is a powerful question to ask. What exactly are you saying F it to? Now, your brain will likely go big. It'll likely go, it's the whole thing. Right? It's this whole thing about drinking. You might call it a journey. It's just too hard. It's not working, right? Nothing I do around wine is working. And by the way, it's getting even worse because now the summer's coming out. Now, it's just not working. But is that really true? Or did one thing go off track and then your perfectionism, for many of my clients, we are perfectionists or ex-perfectionists. It's how we get to be so good in our lives at what we do and in our careers? Has your perfectionism turned this one thing that went off track into a sweeping, vague conclusion? Maybe it was just a hard moment, a singular hard moment. Maybe you felt something truly uncomfortable and you weren't ready for it, right? Maybe you had your plan and you were all ready, and then something completely unexpected happened. Your husband let through the door with a bottle of champagne because he wanted to celebrate a promotion when you're on an alcohol-free day. What do I do here? Right? Maybe your plan was too rigid. Maybe your plan, especially in the early days, was asking too much of you. Now, the next time, because there will be a next time, you reach that moment, that epic moment, instead of starting all over again, right, I've got to go back to day one, or giving up entirely, I can't do this. I want you to ask questions. This is how we learn. Our brains are question answering fanatics. We learn by asking questions just like we do in every other area of our life, right? Remember thinking back in the car, you might say, well, what can I do? Where could I go instead? We would ask questions. We would question ourselves out of the situation. Do not confuse imperfection with failure. When something goes wrong in another part of our life, we might get frustrated, but we do not unravel. We adapt, we recreate, we try again. We just do. I once lost a whole email I'd written. It just vanished. It was annoying. Yes, it was annoying, but the best thing I could do was just to recreate it right then while it was still fresh. Right? I could sit there saying, this is not fair. This is so sad. Maybe I put a lot of thought. I can't remember. I likely would have put a lot of thought into it. I said, I could have said, I'm too tired. I'm not going to do this now. It's too boring. But right there and then, that is the best time to reframe the situation and go at it again. That's what it looks like to stay with yourself, not by being perfect, but by staying present and by doing what you've decided you're going to do, even when you don't do it perfectly. Because when perfection is the goal, the effort moment really is not far behind. I want you to think about that. Now, a better way forward is as follows. Now, this is why I'm not a fan of the day one energy, right? Counting days, 500 days sober. Not that I even do the sober thing either, but you know what I'm saying, right? I have 62 days on plan, anything like that. It can sound empowering, but often I find it is hiding a deeper belief, which is I'm only allowed to move forward if I do this perfectly. Right, but what if just doing a little bit better? More alcohol-free days than last month? More days on plan than last month? Right, feeling more willing to sit through more cravings than last month? Maybe that's a win. What if sustainability, right, and your ability just to keep at it? What if that matters more than any dramatic fresh start? Right, that didn't work, so I'm just going to start from a blank sheet again. If you haven't had 3 alcohol-free days in a row for years and now you're planning to have 3 in the next 2 weeks, that's progress. That's momentum. That's something to build on, right? Here's another metaphor. I have a friend who's a good sailor, and this is all they talk about: ease over force. Right, that's the sailing parallel. If you force your boat, I don't know this, but they told me this, and it just struck with me. I think it's a nice way of looking at it. If you force the boat against the tide, you're going to struggle. You're going to get knocked off course. But when you adjust the sails and then you work with the wind, right, work with what you've got there, you still steer and you often go further with less resistance. That's the energy I want you to take into your next effort moment. I don't want you to fight it. I don't want you to freeze. It's a moment to adjust, to learn, and to move forward. Maybe move forward with grace. How about that? If you could be compassionate and say, look at me. I'm moving forward here. I'm not going to let this derail me. And if you've had an effort moment recently, ask yourself, what wasn't working at the time? And what do I want to do differently? Not perfectly, but intentionally. And if you want help turning that insight into a plan that fits you and your life and the ups and downs of what you go through, book a free discovery call with me. I'll help you learn from your last effort moment and create a path forward that feels honest, that feels something that you could maintain and keep at, right? And that it's yours, it fits you, because you don't have to start over. You just need to start from where you are. The link to do that is in the show notes. I'd love to support you. And remember, if you're listening to this in June 2025, if you do book that call with me before Saturday the 14th and you decide to work with me, 2 people who do this in the next week, you're going to get 12% knocked off the cost of the coaching package. That's a nice little treat for yourselves. Okay, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. If this episode gave you a little perspective or maybe a lot of relief, do share it with someone else. You might be feeling stuck in their own effort moment, right? And let's just keep going, keep being the person we're becoming, and I will see you next week. If this episode hit home and you're ready to explore what life could look like with alcohol in the backseat, let's talk. I work with people one-on-one who are ready to create the relationship with alcohol that works for them, so they feel powerful in their choices and at peace with their habits. Go to 90dayslater.co and click on book a call, or grab one of the free guides in the show notes to this episode. And if this podcast is helping you, a rating or review goes a long way to help others find this work too.